Hello, my name is host Eric. I am the host of Talking with Faith People, and today we're going to discuss the ISTJ personality type, not so frequently discussed, not so frequently seen round yonder parts. And the reason is because ISTJ, as evidenced by, embodied by, and proven by, I guess the same as the first one, Cameron, my friend Cameron, is not a person who is internet enthusiastic. You really see the S come through, both in its glory and its limitations in the ISTJ, because they lead with SI and they are all about taking the time to understand what's right around them and how they feel in space. When Cameron was here earlier, sitting on this couch back here, completely still, straight up and down, good posture, his body was quite comfortable, no doubt, for him. Meanwhile, my leg currently hurts because I've been leaning this way for some reason for a while now, and I need to shift weight again. It's like, and I apparently got to stand up and just sort of shake everything loose. But he's quite attentive to what his body's doing. He wouldn't be doing this right when he's talking. As SI Dom, he's aware of what his hands are doing. Now, additionally, you've got the TE in the second slot. That extrovert thinking magnifies the essiness of the S. And the reason is because he takes this approach to himself, this attention to detail and focus on right now and the schedule, like being aware that I shouldn't schedule too many things and all this kind of other stuff, right? But the TE is the same thing, and it applies best in space, and it causes them to be very workery, like like skilled worker union types, like carpenters, plumbers, welders, shit like that. And in fact, Cameron fits the stereotype perfectly. He, I watch him address certain tasks that are historically quite difficult for me. I'm very impressed with the way he goes about doing them. As I indicated in a video earlier that I'm not sure if it's ever going to go up, but this one probably will. We'll talk about it again. Is that he addresses problems from a different perspective. He addresses it from a work perspective rather than from a solvency perspective. So with this sewing machine, I had him look at it and say, "Well, do you think we can fix this?" And does he think he can fix it really? But I'm saying, should I bother trying to exercise in the fixing? And unlike me, I looked to see what the most likely source of the problem was. I saw that the light worked, so there must not be an electrical problem. Therefore, it must be the motor for the thing, the motor for the sewing machine. He, on the other hand, started with the wiring, didn't conclude that was the most likely, just concluded, well, let's start with the basics. When he saw some frayed wires, he determined that, well, let's fix this first and make sure it's not this. So basically, his approach is I'm going to go at it with which piece of work might solve it in the easiest way first. And then I'll work my way towards the more difficult pieces of work. A much more logical approach, actually, than what seemed the most intuitively logical approach to me, which is let's figure out what the most likely problem is and attack that problem first, because otherwise the other problems will be wasted work. All right, so that's SITE, the first two functions, and I'd like to open it up to any comment. Let me start with Dr. Nutella. I don't think you speak with your voice. I think you speak with text. But if you have any thoughts, I would like to hear them. Zach INTP is dating an INTJ. Oh, well, this is an ISTJ we're talking about. Oh, you did say ISTJ. My bad. Um, how do you feel about that, Zach? How's your ISTJ?
Uh, I work with a lot of friends that they're ISTJ because in the hospitality industry, you need to have that kind of sense of focus on the present, just so you can work efficiently and work well. And the one thing I've noticed about ISTJs are just their organization, their focus on the present. Basically, yeah, that's That's what I think of ISTJs. Although it's like limiting to some extent because they don't like creates. But like that's just personal.
Well, Cameron's fairly creative. He's it's visual stuff, and it's kind of geometric in nature. Sometimes he
They're just like
carved this cool thing. But I agree with you in general that it's not a particularly creative type. And um, Cameron calms me down and puts up with me completely. That's one thing I appreciate about ISTJs. I can yell at Cameron, and he won't be mad at me. He understands that sometimes I yell at people, and I'll
you're like it one.
afterwards I'll be like, my bad, and he'll be like, it's cool, you know. That's how it should be,
Yeah,
easy.
but we had a really good friendship. He like
Host Eric.
he picked me up on a lot of things that like I like fall behind on or something just because I'm any Dom, like I don't think about things I miss a particular way of thinking. So he like picks up on it and then tells me to do it properly, and then I'll be like, yeah, okay, I should have done it like this. Thank you, kind of thing.
Abraham, what do you need?
Um, can I bring a friend tomorrow?
I mean, I'm not gonna hire them. I might already have one too many judges, but oh, we'll see.
No, I don't. No, I'm not saying to hire for judges. I'm saying just in general.
Who?
It's one of my neighbors.
Well, probably. I mean, sure, I guess. I've never had any problem with anybody you brought around before, and we're going to the tournament. You'll probably ride with Felix. Sure. I don't see why not.
Okay.
As long as they're
All
cool.
right. I just want to know. All right, I'm going to bed, dude. It's
Yeah,
fucking
I
late.
know. I'm going
Shit.
to bed soon, too. Thank you for letting me know. Thank you for coming in well, I appreciate you asking about that. First of all, that's
That's okay.
appropriate. But all right, let's presume what we're talking about. So, um, what are we talking about? ISTJ, homie. Right. So, how about you, Taylor? You got any thoughts on ISTJ?
I don't know if I know any. I don't know that I know any. How about that?
Hmm. They don't talk a lot.
So I probably know several. Probably know me. I tend to fill the void when someone's not like picking up the ball
Right.
conversationally.
I think that ENTPs, when they first interact with ISTJ, don't probably think there's anything worth returning to. But we're wrong about that. But I think that's our first gut because we sort of get the gist of it. Like, okay, I get the stuff that you're interested and good at, and that stuff seems irrelevant to me. And you don't talk much. You don't. So I'm not quite sure how what's where to fit you in. But they're great because they're non emotional at all, and they like being helpful, and they're loyal and available, and you know
I
there.
think I know
I
now.
yeah, I think ENTPs and ISTJs work well just because like ENTP will like generate like this big really big idea, and then the ISTJ will kind of organize whatever that needs to be done to get that idea done, kind of thing,
They're down with doing
and
the
they can just
tasks
work
that we
together.
think are super boring. Usually, depending on some of them, they think are boring too. But the shit there's a lot of like steps involved. They're down for doing that.
Yeah.
Actually, now that I think about it, I think one of my best friends is one of those.
I didn't,
And for 20 oh for 24 years, I've been telling him to stop letting me make all the decisions, man.
it's
Come
okay.
up with
They're
something.
fine with it.
Yeah.
You know
Well, less than
why?
that.
It's because they got fourth slot NE. They can't think of any ideas of anything.
But boy, they're happy to participate.
You know, and Cameron, I put him in as uh, coach, like a sub, basically on occasion. He seeks very clear instructions about everything. He doesn't want you to want me to say, what he hates. At first, I used to say this till I started realizing, okay, Eric, you need to be a little bit attentive to people are different, which is, I'd say, well, it's just kind of like this, like this. You'll figure it out. They fucking hate that. They hate that. There's no, you'll figure that out. It's like, I'm supposed to do a job here. I need you to tell me exactly what it is I'm supposed to do so I know I'm doing the job right. It's a
So
whole different way of thinking.
when they get mad, does it kind of just come out of nowhere in a sudden flood of like hilarious but also precise insults?
I haven't seen Cameron
Um,
mad. I don't know.
it's
Go
funny
ahead.
when they get mad because they just complain about like things that they weren't expecting, or like say if you tell them to do something, and because like being a E2P, you just kind of like be vague about it, but they want like clear instructions, so you just tell them like what you just want done, and then they'll just stand there like, but how do you do it? And then just like figure it out for yourself, man. But like they need like clear instructions, like a format they need to follow, and then it'll be done.
So I guess the situation I'm thinking of is my buddy's little sister was dating a guy when we were all in high school that he didn't like, and probably the only time I've ever seen him be take the initiative to be mean to someone. And every time that guy walked in the room, he was on his ass.
Really?
It was
That's interesting. I haven't seen it from Cameron, but I know he's not weak. That's a weird thing. All these descriptions make it sound like this guy's weak or something. Cameron's not weak at all, and our relationship is healthy. I'm not like bossing him around. It's just it's just sort of how our relationship started too. Because unlike most people I know in real life, he's one of my old friends' little brother that I didn't ever know until a couple years ago. I mean, I knew him, like I saw him in passing, but I never hung out with him or anything. So when he showed up around was because I sought him out on Facebook. I was basically trying to find people to play with, you know? And he put up some pictures he had drawn. I was like, well, fucking come on over here. And he had nothing going on at the time because he was an ISTJ who had nobody directing him, right? They want people to direct them. That doesn't mean they want to be bossed around and be subservient or whatever. It just means they need some help in that area. Just like I need some help in SI shit. That's why, I bring some people to help me. I hire people to help me or whatever.
you hire people. What do you think when someone gives you an application with 12 jobs listed in the last 10 years?
ENTP.
No, she's not. But she's not getting hired. But I can see why you'd think that.
That's a possibility. But the other possibility I might think
Oh.
is chronically dissatisfied. I don't know.
So I think it's interesting we were talking about the ISTJ and how they want to be directed. In some ways, I sympathize with that whole "no, you tell me exactly how to do this" thing. Except for me, I feel like it's it might be different from an INFJ perspective because maybe you're thinking more not necessarily about fulfilling the actual task to completion, but worried that if things are left open to chance or your own particular translation of something, that the final product isn't going to be what the other person was asking for. And I'm just wondering how that would be different for the ISTJ if you're saying that they're not really looking for like vague areas.
Well, they're not intuitive, so they're probably not sitting around needing a Xanax.
No, no, they don't. They never need those types of drugs. Um, and y'all took the words out of my mouth. You can't say to an ESTP, "We'll figure it out."
ESTP?
No, I'm sorry, ISTJ. I'm getting sleepy. So with an damn it, with an
ISTJ.
ISTJ, if I say, "Hey, let's talk on Thursday," and then we'll figure it out, like when we're gonna do that. They hate that. You have to say, "Okay, I'll call you Tuesday, and we'll work out what time we're going to speak on Wednesday." You have to use all these descriptive words for them to formulate it into their life. Because once they learn like the definition of a word, if you don't use it the right way, they get confused. And I think they're very creative, but it's in the concrete world. Um,
Like Cameron's TWFP. That's a perfect example of how to direct them well. I think is he comes over. He's like, "Hey, what's up? You want to smoke some bowls?" Or I do the same. One of the two usually. He comes over, smokes some bowls, and then we go outside, and I'm like, "Ooh, you should play this with me." And I give him a piece of wood. I give him a jigsaw. I show him what I made, and I said, "You should make something too. You can write whatever you want." Now, not being an NE deft or whatever you want to call it, his idea is, oh, I'll do TWFP, but his TWFP is done very differently than mine, right? He's got all straight lines measured out. It's all correctly proportional, and he's painted it in this weird way that gives it kind of this drop shadow effect, where he's painted all of one side blue and all of another side yellow, and the front not painted. And so, I mean, that's nothing like I would ever make. His creativity is released or liberated when you tell him, here's a simple concept, I want you to do it. And if I told him, even like, and you should make a TWFP one too, he wouldn't have had a problem with that at all. Whereas I didn't say that because I forgot it's Cameron. He's not gonna have a problem with that, for me
well,
telling him what he should make.
I don't see it, I don't interpret it as directing the ISTJ. I see it as you're giving him a safe place for him to use NE because it's his fourth function.
I think that's more accurate. I've done it with a couple projects with him though, and the thing about it is, I see it as the reason I call it directing is it's like people comes to me sometimes. This happens fairly often, and what they're really saying to me is, I want to create, and I'm not. And so with Cameron, I like the fact that I said, well, let's do a music video for this, and it's called Spud Brow Spree, and you can draw the pictures, and we'll make the music video. And he sit down and I'd say, here's some paper, here's a pencil, and he just starts doing it. But, I like that. That's easy.
Oh, there was something I noticed. um, it was, I think, your outside video. Anyway, it was you and Cameron holds up his creation, and then y'all are trying to figure out how to show its shadow.
I was trying to
And
figure it out, badly trying to figure
okay,
it out.
so he tells you his idea, which to me that was he was exercising his NE, and you shot him down, but it ended up being what you should have done, in which is what y'all ended up doing. He was like, put it up on the wall, and you were like, oh, let's do this and this and this. Your NE was going everywhere, saying to do it this way and this way, and then you eventually arrived back at his.
At that point, did I think it was my idea?
I don't know, but
Well,
if you
Are,
go
are you
back and
sure?
watch that, if you
Are you
go
sure
back
that
and
it
watch that.
was? Are you sure that it was wholly uh, in E? Because it might be that he understood something from a sensing
yeah, it was
perspective.
that, I think. Basically, he got the fact that in this environment that we're looking at here, Eric, the best way to do this is to put it over there, or put the shadow on the wall.
Okay.
But I was just being like, well, that's where the light is pointing, so that's where I should put it, right? Not thinking, why did you turn the light, Eric? There's a crazy idea.
Okay, so maybe it was his SI and your inferior SI, so then your NE took over with all these possibilities when really it was Cameron's SI that was like the best option.
Right. It's kind of like, I need to do something. Let me check my brain. Okay, Eric, the thing you need to do is right here. Why don't you look with your eyes? You know?
Okay.
And your scolding mom comes in and say, "Okay, look with your physical eyes at the physical problem."
Right. But the thing is, I think the thing to note is that Cameron did not have any of his ideas shut down in the making of the thing. Regardless, I encouraged him to do whatever he wants, and he just did TWP because I think he even said something like, "Well, I can't think of anything else, so I'm just gonna do this." Yeah.
Well, I was only talking about that one instance where
Yeah,
he
sure.
had a good idea and you wanted to play with it and play with it and play with it.
Right.
And then you come back to his what he wanted to do.
Right. Well, I've learned
Um,
I've learned better as time has passed. Also, as I've gotten to know where and when I really should definitely defer to take advantage of his little expertise areas because you know if you got a problem like I got in the closet there where the door when I close it it pops back open it doesn't stay latched. I just gotta get him on that task here at some point. Okay, for a point because he's down to like say, well, we're hanging out. We might as well do something, some little project you're doing around here. He doesn't have his own house, you know, so he lives at his mom and dad. Anyway, uh,
Something
it's
I was
useful.
gonna bring up is, in a way, isn't it like that SITE combo that he's utilizing? In a way, it's kind of like its own. It's like its own any possibility that if you can just sort of shift your perspective and be like, all right, let's latch on to the possibility that is Cameron, and let's just run with that instead of thinking about all these different things. Then you're talking about the TWFP sign and how it manifested in a way that you totally weren't expecting. It's like its own, even though it's not any that's being used, and on his part, you still have an ability to go out on a limb and be like, well, let's just see let's tell Cameron what we want, and then let's see how he specifically sort of realizes the goal. I don't know.
Right.
It could be like a creation within his own knowledge, maybe, like, or something he's come across before, and then he's kind of doing it in this context, maybe.
He applied a technique he uses when he's drawing to the paint on the thing.
so he
So,
refers to the past instead of thinking about potential new uses.
and he refers to the past all the time when he's giving examples of things, talking about things. Um,
He could be referring to the past as an example and then applying it, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, and beyond that, he thinks differently. He was talking about how he can remember how it felt to be a little kid. I said, that sentence doesn't make any sense.
ISTJ is the concrete INFJ. They are the complete reverse of us. So if an INFJ holds up the right hand, an ISTJ is going to hold up the left.
They notice weird body language stuff all the time about animals, and they tell you about it. They tell you, I saw a cat the other day, and it was indicating that it wanted blah by doing the following thing with its tail. Oh, that's cool. That's great. It's a strange little sort of,
No, that's
but they
SI,
notice.
the mirror of NI. It's going down to the root of something, but using completely concrete patterns.
Cameron
And I
watches
always
my
thought that was
animals.
just lost imagination.
Lost imagination?
Yeah. Jared, shut the fuck up. That's not happening. Your cat doesn't think that. Your dog doesn't think that.
Well, I disagree with that because I think his observations about the cat and the dog are quite insightful a lot of times.
They
That
might.
Notice that
I
his
just
observation is based on body language.
that's a possibility.
He's
Okay.
basing them on physical patterns.
My dogs probably wouldn't be half as neurotic as they are if I paid attention to what they were actually presenting in terms of their body language.
well, simple things like Cameron notices when the cat's in heat before the cat's even very far. The cat, he just got here. The cat will like walk a little distance past him and he'll say, "Oh, your cat's in heat again,
I just let so many jokes go.
huh?" That's probably wise.
It was wise.
He's less attentive to the dog. I think because dogs are less complex in how their behaviors indicate things, and humans understand cats less well in terms of how their physical motions and shit represent things.
It's like, I think your dog doesn't like me. How can you tell that? Well, he's biting my arm, so that's part of it.
Cameron notices things a little more subtle than that, I think. And you know what else he does for a job? He works for my friend Al Areno, who's got an air conditioning business. That's perfect, Cameron. He'll come and start telling me a little bit about this stuff. Like sometimes, oh yeah, it's Halorino. I'm learning a lot from him because these things are very precise, and if you have a train air conditioner or something, you need to use this kind of thing. And if you, he won't go into great deal of detail because I think he understands it's boring, but he'll sometimes express his satisfaction with the fact that he's got another protocol down, right? Like, and now I know how to fix this because I finished section 2 of this booklet that I've been studying on how to work on these kind of air conditioners. So that's TE as essified as it gets, where he's just like, and for him, he's saying it's difficult to study this stuff and remember it all because it's very precise and it's not a lot of information, but it's a lot of precise steps. But he likes that kind of studying because he can close out a unit. Like, okay, I now can fix this. And I think that they like the world to be divided into shit like that. And most contemporary kind of professional jobs don't operate like that at all. So ISTJ often, I think, can run into problems if they don't achieve a whole shitload, or I mean, they don't need a lot of achievement, but they need more than I think they're necessarily going to naturally get, if not eased along some paths or something.
I think it'd be cool to be in cooperation with an ISTJ. I wouldn't want to be in competition because if we were doing like sensory step-based stuff, they'd probably just win.
That's the nice thing. It's very difficult to feel competitive with Cameron because he's good shit that I'm not good at, almost 100%. It's like whatever he's good at, I'm shitty at. So it's hard to feel competitive about it with him with anything. I think the interesting thing is that FI in the third slot, because I don't understand how that exactly plays out, but I do get the sense that there's that kind of ISFP quiet that conveys, right or wrong, a depth of understanding of the self that evades me.
They always listen to you. I think that's something I overlooked in knowing an ISTJ. It took me a long time to realize that they always listen. And they never seem bothered by it. They're happy to listen to you.
That's true. Makes it easy to be friends with, and that's kind of important. It's like I'm less neurotic probably with him than others because I feel like he really is quite quiet. And when I'm in a quiet mood, which happens occasionally, as was happening when around Lacey's time a little bit, and then again when this TWFE shit started to really kind of get complicated, and my brain was collapsing from thinking about it all. And so I was really getting quiet. When we'd hang out, I realized, oh, he's trying to get me going or something. Like he'd say a sentence, and I'd go, maybe a pause, and he'd like say another one eventually. And of course, for me, as you can tell right now, I have trouble getting to the end of the point. But that's it right there. Anything else on ISTJs before we call it a topic?
I don't think I really know any.
Okay, well, that's 30 full minutes on ISTJs. Probably too long, but we did have a good number of voices involved in the conversation. Me more than perhaps the ratio ought to have been, but pretty decently close, I suppose. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese. Yada, yada, yada.